don't know if I'm too late for this talk. My question is whether there is a possibility for this strain to become seasonal like the flu. What makes the flu not simply die off with a quarantine like how it happened with SARS? The other reply seems to have misunderstood your question. I would say that we do not know if this strain, if it becomes pandemic, will eventually die off. A few of the viruses that cause the common cold every year are also coronaviruses, so it is possible. The flu does not die off every year because it continues to spread at lower levels at the tropics and then the opposite hemisphere, recombining with the other flu viruses and evolving all the time. Coronaviruses are known to recombine as well. What are the chances of contracting the virus in a major city outside China? The media is doing its thing and generating a lot of fear. I'd like to know whether most people here need to actually be worried about contracting the virus. Very unlikely in a developed country. Quarantined procedures are very effective and people who may have been affected are contacted or notified to watch their health. If you're in a developing country, it's difficult to tell, but your chance of contracting the virus is much higher because the people who already have the virus have likely not been isolated as you may get it from them. Overall, your chance of contracting corona is quite low. Just take safety precautions such as staying away from people who seem sick and sanitize your hands and eating surfaces. How does this compare to previous viral outbreaks like SARS, Zika and Ebola? I don't remember entire cities or regions being evacuated of foreigners or cities walling themselves off with other outbreaks. Is this a bigger deal than previous outbreaks? It's most comparable to SARS, which was another coronavirus. Currently, it's less deadly than SARS but contagious. It also seems to be pretty stable in humans, meaning not a lot of mutation has been observed. Zika doesn't spread person to person, so it's not really comparable. Edit: Zika can spread person to person through sex, but it's mainly through mosquitoes. Ebola is not very contagious but can be very deadly. Wait, so if coronavirus is the scientific term, why hasn't it got a name to plaster on the breaking news scroll bar? The name the public health community has given it is 2019 nCoV, meaning 2019 novel coronavirus. That doesn't roll of the tongue as nicely as coronavirus or SARS, I guess. SARS was severe acute respiratory syndrome, which is equally vague and could really be used to describe 2019 nCoV. How can you tell the difference between being a bit ill and having the coronavirus? Are there any obvious signs that separate it from traditional flu? Yes, actually. The majority of cases so far have resulted in a fever followed by a cough followed by shortness of breath, but rarely sniffles or sneezing. If your symptoms are predominantly a stuffed nose and sneezing, which are typically the first symptoms of a cold or flu, then you likely don't have the coronavirus. None of the 99 patients from the original study of hospitalized patients had a runny nose or sneezing as the first symptom. Most of them didn't have it at all. What's the deal with that paper finding HIV genes in the coronavirus? Assuming that the results of that paper are true, does that make it harder to fight? Does it make it easier to spread? Does it make it more lethal? It is definitely not the case. The authors of the paper typed in the amino acid sequence insertions into a search engine that finds other similar sequences. But with short sequences like those they typed in, you're going to get a lot of results. They cherry-picked HIV out of the list for no scientific reason. Try it yourself. Here's the link. Just type your amino acid sequence of interest in it. You'll find a lot of results, and a lot of noise. It is a travesty that the paper has been promoted and shared by someone with a very large audience and no virology expertise, fueling the fire of conspiracy theorists. Wow, that's brutally dangerous fear-mongering. I am glad I read this thread, because I would have believed it otherwise. I'm just wondering what will be done for people who have the virus. Is it possible that with proper medical care, the organism can get through it on its own? No cure exists yet and a possible vaccine is probably months away. So what will happen to them? Will they remain sick until such a vaccine exists or until they die? People have recovered. They released the first Canadian case already. He recovered in just a couple days. The third confirmed Canadian case, from London on, also recovered after 3 days.